Welcome to Open House, the real estate and mortgage show on News Talk 580 CFRA.
With Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth, here is Steve Gregory.
It's a full house this week.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks for coming back and joining us, Frank.
You're welcome for the weather. I brought it with me.
Yes,
Put it in my suitcase, and up it came.
Frank and I were actually chatting about this morning. When you get weather like this, it just creates that buzz and that happiness and that optimism. Smiles. You know, like we ran into one of Frank's. I believe it was one of your agents at Starbucks.
Not a fellow mortgage broker from Kingston.
She was in Starbucks, and her husband are in town just to walk around and have some fun. You wouldn't be doing that in January, but it was. It's nice to see the lack of snow here now, too. I mean, we're going to get another weekend. We're going to get some rain. The snow's going to disappear.
The flooding will start.
Yeah, you know what? That could be a concern, too. I'm going to probably head up to Constance Bay. I'm going to head up to Constance Bay today and just see what's going on with the snow situation up there. And, I mean, it's a combination of, are we going to get the thawing really quick? What's going to happen with the northern dams? Are they going to let them out too quick? So, I mean, we had a lot of snow this year, so I'm really praying that we don't get any flooding this year, especially, when you think about Constance Bay, you're thinking the Gatineau, Quebec side, you're thinking, anything downtown area. So hopefully we stay away from the flooding. But it is nice. The positivity here is the optimism to look at homes and get homes sold, and it's there right now. People are excited, which is amazing.
Last weekend of winter.
Is that what it is? Last weekend of winter?
Thursday is spring.
There we go. Beautiful.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Spring market a little late, though.
Well, we haven't had much of a spring market. We were, we saw the number of sales were down. The average sale price is up at the end of February. And you know what? It's still, I mean, I know Greg's quite busy. He's shooting lots of homes right now. We're pouring on the listings. But we still have that hesitancy with the Trump effect and what's going on there with the tariffs and people uncertain about what's going on.
But it looks like we're going to be uncertain for the next 4 years.
Well, that's the worst. But that's the worst part, right? Like, I mean, when he puts tariffs on and then takes them off, temporarily suspends them, it's just as bad as putting them on. I mean, I know businesses who are affected, it doesn't feel that way. But as far as the market goes, what we're talking about, we are seeing that. Like, sure, we're suspending tariffs, but, April 2nd or April 4th when they come back, potentially come back, it's still that position of uncertainty right now. And I know people are very uncertain what's going on. A lot of hesitancy. We do have, if 100% of our buyers were looking in a great spring market, we might have 60% of our buyers looking right now because people are still a little bit uncertain. We're seeing jobs are a little bit constricting. The government is, there's plans to probably lay off some government workers.
Well, we got a federal election coming.
We got a federal election coming. We had a terrible winter for snow and weather. So I just think we had the 8 ball behind us. And I think that we didn't have a spring last year. We're not having a spring this year as well, which is a little bit. Let's hope it's delayed. I mean, we're still in the spring market. We're getting, what are we, mid-March right now? We still could have a late push to spring, which I'm hoping we will.
Now, we could have an election in May, so maybe by late May, early June, all of this.
But that eliminates the spring market. And,
no, but it'll just be later. That's all.
It'll be later, but we had it last year. I don't know that the timing as much works anymore, but when the weather does get nice, people have this kind of attitude to go out and look at homes. And then not only that, if you're looking to change neighborhoods, well, you want to move in sometime maybe the end of June, July, and August so that you can get your kids settled in the new school if you have to.
And elections always, historically, slow down the market, right? I mean, the provincial election did very little to the market, but
the outcome was
we knew what the outcome was pretty much was going to be. But the federal election is kind of a different story right now. And anytime we get near an election, we start to see a little bit of a pause and a little bit of slowdown going into the election. And then people think, okay, the election's over. We know who's in power.
Yeah.
Perfect. The market picks up. The truth is that's not what happens because now the new party or the existing party are in power. And they've made some promises and their platform has, certain things attached to it. And now it's people sitting back and saying, are those promises going to come to fruition or are they going to renege on those promises? So we do see a little bit of a slowdown after the election as well. So I think that we're probably in for a very average spring market, hopefully a bit of a late spring market leading into the summer.
Well, we have interest rates in our favor, at least for now. First time that I can remember, we've got the 5-year and the variable at the same rate.
Pretty well same rate. I mean, prime rate came down by a quarter point on Wednesday, Bank of Canada, as expected. Right now, the odds for April 16th are 90%, a 0.25% drop, 10%, a 0.5% drop.
Ooh.
So
your buddy Benjamin Tall figures it'll go below 2%.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few that are predicting that right now. There's a few banks that are predicting below 2 as well.
But you're seeing both sides. So you've got Scotiabank that thinks we're pretty well there, maybe another quarter point, and that's it. And then you've got other ones that are, like if these tariffs hit, count on another percent, maybe 2% coming down. So
wow.
It's
so what would a variable be if that happens?
Well, again, I mean, if you remember during the pandemic, prime rate got to 2.45%. So, out there was 1.2% off of prime. So there were people at a 1.2% variable rate mortgage for a year and a half, 2 years. And then, unfortunately, it went the other way, and it went the other way fast. But hopefully we can stay on top of it this time. The biggest concern for the Bank of Canada is inflation coming back. That's their biggest concern. Otherwise,
and it will come back.
And it will come back. If the tariffs hit, it's going to come back. But, just by the same token, there's going to be tens of thousands of jobs that are lost. So then that's what puts Tiff Macklem in a really tough spot, because he needs to lower interest rates because the unemployment level is going up. But he needs to be careful how much he lowers it, because the inflation's going up as well, and he wants to make sure that the inflation stays under control. So,
and then throw in the Canadian dollar.
Throw in the Canadian dollar, and just throw in everything, the uncertainty that's going on everywhere. And it's a tough job. I mean, he's really going to have to make a decision and stick by it based on the fact that hopefully he's made the right decision and doesn't make the same mistake he did during the pandemic, where he let the runaway train of the inflation get away, and then he was forced to increase rates dramatically and very quickly over a 16-month period, where he increased it by 5 percentage points.
But Frank, I think even if rates do come down, usually when rates come down, the fear is that people start spending is going to drive up inflation. I don't think
they don't want to have the money.
That's it. And I don't think people. I think people learned during the pandemic. Keep in mind, during the pandemic, people had more. Most people had more disposable money than they've had in a long time. People got into a lot of debt during the pandemic because of that, because rates were super low. They were spending lots of money. And then by the time things got out of control, they're like, holy crow, I'm in debt now, big time. I think people
That's exactly what they said, too. Holy crow.
Yeah, well, I was going to use what I really wanted to say, but you're not allowed to say that on this show, Steve.
You can't say cow? Holy cow?
Holy cow, yeah, holy cow. But you know what? I think even if the rates come down, I don't think we're going to spur a lot of spending. I think we're going to maybe spur a little bit more saving.
People will be too afraid, right?
I think we're going to spur a little more saving because rates are going to come down. I don't think people are going to spend like they were during that pandemic.
Yeah, I agree, Paul, and I'll tell you why I agree.
Oh, well, pardon me?
I agree.
Nice,
so again, it happens once a month. So there you go. My first show back, and you've already got it. From a standpoint of Canadians are hurting right now. So in America, in the U.S., and I don't think Donald Trump reads this because it has nothing to do with him or his family, because they're very entitled, very well off. But 7% of Americans right now are late on their credit cards by 90 days or more. 7%. That is the highest figure that's ever been recorded. Bankruptcies are at all-time highs in the U.S. So here's a country that's making it out like their economy is absolutely steamrolling right now and doing well, yet the numbers tell you a different story. So this is the problem we have today. The problem is that we've got a lot of fake news out there, and Donald Trump's the one that started with the fake news. Well, he's right, but he's the one who actually now starts a lot of the fake news, because he's making it look like America is doing really well, Americans are doing well, and he's telling his voters, his own voters, he's saying, hey, we're going to go through a little bit of pain. No, they're already going through the pain, and it's not a little bit of pain. When you're 90 days, 7% of Americans are late by 90 days on their credit cards, that's a significant problem, and the bankruptcies are at all-time highs.
And the pain hasn't begun yet.
And the pain hasn't even started yet because the tariffs haven't hit. I mean, he makes it sound like everybody's taking advantage of him. A tariff is a tax. I don't know how Americans don't see that. A tariff is another word for tax. All he's doing is he's taxing. He makes it sound like he's taxing Canadians, but he's taxing his own people as well. And somehow people just don't see it, and they need to stand up to him.
You only have to go to any big city in America right now. The homeless rate is out of control. Like a couple of years ago, not even a couple of years ago, I think it was a year and a half ago, I was in San Francisco.
LA's worse.
LA, San Francisco. I mean, the homeless rate is unbelievable in the States right now. And I do believe what you're saying too is what Trump's doing is not only hurting Canada and the rest of the world, it's hurting his country as well.
He'll figure it out eventually.
Big time.
You think?
Eventually he'll figure it out, because I think everybody's going to go to him and say, what are you doing? Like every governor, even of the red states, is going to go to him and say, you have no idea how much damage these tariffs have done.
Keep in mind.
If they ever get some backbone.
But keep in mind, Trump hangs around a lot of influential, rich people. Look at Elon Musk. Look at all these guys.
How much does he cost?
How much does he cost? Eventually, you got the Elon Musk of the world that are going to tap him on the shoulder and be like, yo, Donald, you're really crippling me right now. Let's go.
I'm out.
Yeah.
521-TALK, 521-8255. We will be right back. Frank Napolitano and Paul Rushforth. To the phones we go and say hello to Sean in Stittsville. Hello, Sean.
Hi. Good morning, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Much appreciated.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to know, with the recent, decision from the new Prime Minister in the removal of the carbon tax, and we know that it's been stated in the past that the carbon tax was or is in part responsible for inflation. How is that going to impact, the economy moving forward and interest rates for refinances and renewals and whatnot?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sean, and you're right. I mean, these as much as they denied the fact that they were inflationary, they are inflationary because they drove up the cost of food, because transportation happens with diesel fuel, which skyrocketed in price. Therefore, that cost is passed on to the consumer, so it's inflationary. What we will see is, I think, lately the inflation, most of the inflation has been shelter, which is mortgage and rent. So we've seen those stabilize and come down. So that's a good sign. If you follow the markets, oil prices have come way down in the last month as well. So that's going to help. And then if we eliminate the carbon taxes, the hope is that it offsets some of the inflation that these tariffs are going to create, so that inflation can still stay under that 3%. And I think that Tiff Macklem's gone on record as saying, even if they go between 3 and 4, we're comfortable with that. So hopefully that's the goal, is to keep it below the 4 and ideally below the 3, so that interest rates could come down based on the fact that the tariffs are going to create the unemployment number to go up. And therefore we can continue. And Canadians can feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that maybe you can get gas at $1.10 a liter instead of $1.40 a liter, and help them save money that way. Not only, I've always said, I can't believe we're paying tax on heating our homes. We live in Canada. We shouldn't be taxed on heating our homes because it's a necessity. We shouldn't be paying tax, carbon or anything, on food. Necessities should not be taxed, in my opinion. I've always believed that.
You know what? You're a longtime listener, so you've probably never heard this before, but I 100% agree with what Frank had to say there. I know you've never heard that, but I totally agree with Frank in that carbon tax is definitely going to help us. And we have a lot of positive signs which are helping keep our inflation low. And yes, the tariffs are going to drive up inflation, but I do believe, like Frank said, there are a lot of positive signs that are really helping us, including our housing market. Like he said, shelter is our number one driver, and we've seen our market come down. We've seen our prices come down and stabilize quite a bit. The only thing I do disagree a little bit with is the rent prices. The rent prices are still going through the roof.
They're coming down now, though, aren't they?
Well, some areas they're coming down, but we're still seeing, we're going to probably see a lot more rentals hit the market as people are, the market becomes a little bit unaffordable. But we've seen, as more people get into the rental market, it is probably going to drive up the rental prices again. That's the only negative in the housing market. But we've seen prices definitely come down and stabilize. And I think the removal of this carbon tax is a very positive thing, not only on inflation, but on our market.
Answer your question, Sean?
It sure does. Thanks so much, guys.
Clear as mud. Hey,
thanks for calling. Thanks for calling in, Sean. First-time caller. You should call more often.
Let's go from one Sean to another Sean.
Sean Squared.
Sean Squared, yes. Sean, no volatility. Reed is on the line.
I don't mind that. I don't mind the ring to that. And I got to ask, Paul, how is it that I'm not, I'm not there at the studio, but do you like looking across at Frank again, taking that seat?
You're breaking up. Sorry, reader.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Actually, you know what? I must admit it was very positive seeing a little bit more brain power across from me over the last couple of weeks. That's for sure. Especially with Greg sitting over there, Sean Reed sitting over there. So yeah, the room has definitely become a little bit. I'm not going to say dumb, but not as smart for sure.
How's life at the Mix, Sean?
You know what? Things are good at the Mick, and obviously this past week, as you said, with some volatility in the market, we had again an abundance, a number of phone calls, just from people, wanting to again explore some other options for their investments, get a little bit more of an understanding of what we do, and that's why I think bringing some value of just coming on and talking about what we do with the Mick, and that is quite frankly, the conversations that we have. From potential investors, okay, I've heard you on the radio, but what is it that you actually do at the end of the day? And, so just to give a brief overview again, if I can, we're really servicing, a need that's increasing in demand from a variety of reasons, whether it be, obviously the market trends and in affordability of housing, or, self-employed individuals that needing to qualify on paper, to get traditional mortgages. They're coming to us through, the broker channels such as Frank and the other, great brokers in the community that send us files and look for their solutions. And as investors, they're able to benefit from an increasing demand in alternative and private mortgages. So, and we look at, quite frankly, we're not a lender of last resort, as I've always stressed that. And that's another key topic that I get from people, or question, I should say. What's your risk appetite, and what are the clientele that you're dealing with? The clients that we deal and we service as a private mortgage lender are strong clients. Typically, we see a lot of self-employed individuals that have great credit scores, good cash flow in their income, and they just need another year or so to improve their their income on paper to qualify at a traditional lender. And our investors are benefiting from that, and they're truly benefiting from an investment that's not correlated to a publicly traded market that we see quite a lot of volatility in the last few weeks.
So if I invest, where does my money actually go?
Yeah, so you're purchasing shares of amongst all of our investors in a pooled fund. Advanced Mick is the shares that you're purchasing, and then we lend out that money in private mortgages. So those borrowers are paying, their interest, they're paying fees that are associated with mortgages, and that money goes back into the fund, and then it gets distributed out to our investors.
So as a pool, though, right?
As a pool, and that's such a, again, another thing to keep in mind. There's obviously the benefits sometimes of people taking on a little bit more risk, or I should say a greater deal of risk, by maybe doing one-to-one investing. But when you're diversifying your risk by investing in a pool of funds, you're now, minimizing the risk because you're sharing it amongst a spread out group, if you will.
And what type of returns are we talking about?
Yeah, and it's consistent. We're targeting for 8.5%. Return. So probably I'm going to say 8.25. We'll land right in the middle of that is what we're looking for. And again, people really are liking that when they see what's taking place out in the public markets.
And you'll notice that Paul and Frank are not speaking. That's because they both left already.
No. Honestly, the reason is I practice a lot of gratitude in my life, and I'm actually very grateful that Reader allows Frank and I on his show. I am extremely grateful for that. I practice gratitude, and thank you, Reader, for allowing Frank and I to take over your show.
Well, guys, on Monday we'll have a meeting, and we're going to change the title of the show.
Yeah.
I want you guys to think of some ideas for over the weekend and how we're going to change the name of the show.
Yeah.
Reader and Frank, or Reader and Paul, I don't know. Reader has to be at the beginning, okay?
Welcome to the Reader Show with special guests today, Frank and Paul. Yes.
With minor guests.
With minor guests, Frank and Paul.
Exactly.
How do I get more information to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can always give us a call at the office, 613-656-0017. Or you can also just send me an email at Sean R, spelled S-E-A-N, so Sean R at advancedgroup.ca.
And if you wait till the end of the show, I'll actually pass on his wife's number as well, too. So,
thank you, Sean.
All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rita. See you, buddy.
The Kumbaya Club will be right back. 521-TALK, 521-8255. Welcome back. Paul Rushforth here, Frank Napolitano here. Greg here, his finger is sore from taking so many pictures this week.
He's been busy. We have a lot of listings on the market.
Yeah, but it's not a good thing or a bad thing if there's more listings, because we got to be I mean, we're a balanced market now. We got to be heading towards buyer's market.
We're just shy of 5 months of inventory on the market right now, which means if no other house hits the market, it'll take almost 5 months for all the homes to sell. Balanced market is usually between 4 and 6 months, but we are teetering very fast between that 6 and potentially even higher.
Keep in mind, that's the highest it's been in more than 5 years, right?
Yes. Keep in mind, 3 years ago, we were at 0.7 months. So we were like everything. And the only reason it was taking that long was because people were, delaying putting the home on the market and no offers until this date or no showings until this date. So
which isn't happening now.
No, right? It's not happening. So the months of inventory are definitely creeping up. So yes, putting a lot of listings on the market, you have to know how to manage your listings. You have to know how to keep your sellers happy because a lot of sellers are grumpy if the things aren't selling. Showings are a little bit lower now with less buyers as buying power comes down. But, one thing I can tell you, though, is in this market, we are starting to see, and I'm not saying our listings, but I'm saying listings in general, we are starting to see some listings that are quite, what's the word?
Rundown?
Well, let's say ugly. I know that's a little bit harsh, but listen, there's no appetite for ugly listings.
And you don't mean the design.
I don't mean the design. I mean the cleanliness. I mean the upgrades. I mean the state of how it looks is run down.
And lipstick won't do it?
No, lipstick won't do it. I mean,
a vacuum might help.
Vacuum might help, but listen, agents have to actually go and actually stage, not stages in furniture, but stages in, you need to clean this up. You need to move this. You need to take care of this. You need to declutter this. That kind of stuff has to be done before homes hit the market, because one thing that there's no appetite for is ugly listings, and especially overpriced listings. So there still is, a segment of the market, whether it's 10, 20, 30, 40% of the market that still thinks we're going through that crazy COVID market, and they want, a 1.2 for $1 million home. And it's just, those days are over. If you don't price your home accordingly to the way it looks, you will not get your home sold. So make sure you price it properly, but most importantly, make sure it looks good. And
so how do you have that conversation with somebody if you walk in and it's a pigsty?
Well, it's very easy for me, mainly because I just say, listen, you're hiring me to sell your home, correct? Do I have the permission to tell you what you need to know to get your home sold? I can bring in, a bunch of people who can tell you whatever you want to hear to get your home sold, but I'm here to tell you what you need to know. You're paying me to do a job. My job is to get your home sold. So here is what you need to do. This may appeal to a few people, but it doesn't appeal to the masses. So make sure you take this color and change it to this color, more of a neutral color. Now, I don't want you to go in. I'm not going to go in and make you spend, $100,000 to get a return of 30 on it. I'd rather get you to spend $30,000 to get a return of 100 on it, right? So things like kitchens you may not replace, but we may be able to do things like upgrade the countertops or upgrade the backsplash or light fixtures or paint, declutter, clean.
Clean's got to be the most important.
Well, clean is the most important, because if people see dirt, they think, well,
that's what they can see.
That's what they can see. Like, what does the furnace look like? What is the cracks behind all the stuff in the basement? What does that look like?
So when you've got like 5 months of listings, if you're going to walk into a place and it's filthy, you're immediately turning around and gone. And that's out of your mind, right?
So if 4 or 5 years ago, if you would have called me and said, I'm looking to list my house, and I walked in and you had a blue kitchen and you had, grime everywhere and you had holes in the wall and your light fixtures were terrible, and you said, do I need to renovate? My answer would be like, nope, get it on the market just as it is. Now you call me over to one of those homes and I'm like, you are not ready for the market. This is what needs to be done. Boom, 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 boom. Or let's take $20,000 off the price and price it accordingly and get it sold the way it is. The home runs are gone and the ugly homes are gone. So you have to make sure your home shows really well. You have to stand out in a pile, because as we mentioned, our listings are starting to skyrocket. We're carrying upwards of 100, 110 listings right now. By 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, we're probably carrying 130, 140 listings. How do you stand out in a pile of listings? Not just me as one agent, but how do you stand out in a pile of listings? So where there could have been 3, 4, 5 comparables on the market in your area, now there could be 20, 25, 30 comparables. How do you stand out? And if you're middle of the pack or lower in the pack, you are now waiting for 20 to 30 listings to sell before yours even sells. But then again, there's going to be another 20 or 30 that hit the market that look better than yours. So if you look ugly, you better be priced like you look, and you better price it properly in order to get your home sold. And I think the discrepancy between what agents are doing right now is I really believe in telling somebody exactly what they need to do to get their home sold, right? I don't want to just, fluff.
No, you can't pull punches, right?
You can't fluff their tires and say, "Oh, it looks great the way it is. I'm scared to tell you it doesn't look good."
Yes, it's worth $3 million.
Yeah, and the problem is, in 4 months from now, you're yelling at me, you're calling me useless, you're calling me this. Oh, this is the worst part. Why didn't you tell me when you first listed?
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I am going to tell you whether you like me or not. I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong with your house. It's the only way to get homes sold nowadays is that pure honesty.
There's lack of buyers out there. Let's call a spade a spade. There's not a lot of buyers out there right now with the circumstances the way they are. And normally, somebody who may have bought a townhouse 5 years ago has done very well. Their value's gone up, their equity's gone up, but they're still scared to pull the trigger on that single home right now because their interest rate is about to go from 2.5% up to 4.25%. So therefore, on their existing mortgage, they're already struggling. So now if they got to add another 100, 150, 200,000, so therefore you've eliminated that potential buyer from the equation. So that's the problem. When you have this many listings, you're right. I mean, if the house isn't in pristine condition like most people want today, nobody wants to put money in houses anymore. Nobody wants to do renovations. Way
Especially
too expensive.
now,
because they're expensive. Way too expensive.
Way too expensive. It used to be affordable 5 years ago. It's not anymore. Labor's expensive. Materials are off the charts right now.
Well, not only that, with the carbon tax, with the tariffs, it's
going to get worse.
It's going to get more expensive.
Get worse.
I told people to put their house on the market early in the spring market, and people were like, yeah, but all those uncertainties and the possibility of tariffs and that. I put my two townhomes that I was selling on in a tougher market. They were tough to sell. I didn't get exactly what I was hoping for, but that market now is even tougher because homes are starting to hit the market now, or they're already on the market. And so I'm seeing the listings start to multiply quickly. It's going to be more in April. It's going to be more in May. So if you don't stand out, you are not getting sold right now. So you have to stand out or price it so you stand out.
Are we getting into a spot where people are needing to sell right now?
Not needing to sell, but people are needing to refinance. So people are more open to refinancing than ever before. And it's from a necessity standpoint. It's not that they want to, because they may have 15 years left on their mortgage, but they're accepting the fact that they need to increase their amortization up to 20, 22 years to make sure that the payments stay in line and maybe to include other debt and just be able to live comfortably because of the uncertainty. They want something that gives them money in their bank account at the end of every 2 weeks and not all the money is going towards a debt and food and activities the kids may have, and then they're struggling to sleep at nighttime because they may not have enough. Most Canadians today are looking for certainty. Now, they say, well, if I want certainty, maybe I should take a fixed-rate mortgage. And I always say to them, an adjustable-rate mortgage doesn't mean you don't have certainty. You do have certainty because you can set your payment at a certain amount. And as long as we get in front of it, if interest rates were to start going up, then you should be okay. And in today's environment with social media, with real estate agents and mortgage brokers posting all over social media if anything's happening, it's not like you're going to wake up and all of a sudden interest rates have gone up 2%. That's likely not going to happen. So you are able to be on top of it. But, I had a client and I said, and they're in their 50s. They've always wanted to go Mediterranean cruise, and their mortgage is up for renewal. And their house has gone up $240,000 in the last 5 years. Never would have happened. And they had an interest rate at 2.59%, and their mortgage has been paid down pretty aggressively. And they've got a couple of other little debts out there, but they want to do a Mediterranean cruise. I said, what are you waiting for? Let's refinance your mortgage. Let's get the money for the Mediterranean cruise. Go do you're in your 50s. You want to do it in your 50s or in your 70s? When your mortgage is paid off, just go do it now. It's not going to have that big of an impact on your mortgage payment. And they were so bang on. They said, you know what, Frank? We've seen friends of ours get sick with cancer, and who knows? It could happen to us. Why not do this now?
Frank, something you said too is a conversation I had with the seller this week was when we were about to list the property at a certain price. So I'll be transparent. It was $1.2 million, and I thought it was too high. I wanted to get them down to about 1.1. We ended up getting them down to 1.1, but they're like, oh, geez, I feel like I just lost money here and this and that. I said, I just want to remind you of certain things. If we didn't go through COVID, you and I would be having a conversation right now of pricing your home around $900. Instead, we're pricing it at 1.1 at a number I believe it's going to get sold for. So just keep in mind, if we didn't go through the craziest time in modern history, and prices skyrocketed like they did here in Ottawa, well, all over the world, but especially here in Ottawa, we would be sitting here, if we had a normal Ottawa market, talking about pricing your home at about $900,000. Now we're pricing it at 1.1. So did you really, really lose? The other thing that I was thinking about when you're talking there about uncertainty and certainty and that is good job to all the realtors in the city. Good job to all the mortgage brokers in the city. Good job to a lot of business people and a lot of the working community. We have just navigated probably 5 of the craziest years that we're ever going to go through when it comes to COVID and when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to changes, climate issues, climate changes. We've gone through a really, really tough 5 years. And I think even though we are still in a position of uncertainty, like silent clap for what we've gone through and how we weathered the storm in the last 5 years. I really
one-handed.
But no, I really, when you think about it, like I believe I'm really proud of the real estate industry, of how these realtors have handled such a challenging market over the last 5 years. Mortgage brokers, the same thing. Like mortgage brokers went from being able to get paperwork together in no time to now taking forever to get paperwork together because it's a huge challenge and people want more. And that's just two industries that we are in. Think of all the industries that have gone through so much uncertainty with what's gone on with COVID and tariffs and climates. And it's been a crazy 5 years. So I just think that we are weathering.
You better be creative for the next 4.
You really, well, yeah, because it's going to be another.
Good at what you do. You better be good at what you do because guess what? These tariffs are throwing a wrench into everything. And from one day to another, we don't know what's going to happen. So you better be up to date on everything in your industry and be really good at it.
But that's not even the last thing, though, that's going to happen to us.
No, 100%.
Next year we might be talking about, I don't know, fires or floods, or like we could be talking about anything, really.
No, but that's what we have to
Don't worry. Be happy.
What I'm saying is, like Frank and I are saying, like we've all gone through serious challenges, and I think we've weathered the storm and done a great job. We will weather this tariff storm. I know there's a lot of people super worried and scared and, underwater and worried about money and this and that. We will get through this. Yeah. We have over the last 5 years, and we will get through this.
Choose wisely.
And we focus on the negative too much, I think, as a society, and forget about some of the positive things that have happened in our world. And we choose to ignore all the positive stuff and focus on that one thing that's been negative in our lives.
Well, that's
and I
easy
think we
picking,
need to get away
right?
from that.
Well, as we go to break, over the last 5 years, we've talked about uncertainty. But for you, Frank, this is 5 more years of being my friend and being in a studio with me every Saturday. Like, that is a dream for you.
You see? I am blessed.
See, let's look at the positive.
Blessed.
Congratulations, and you're welcome.
Of course, I may not be here, but 521-TALK, 521-8255. We'll be right back. We're back to the show. Question, gentlemen.
And we will give you the answer. Go ahead, Frank.
These tariffs, if these tariffs hit or when these tariffs hit or whatever bloody tariffs hit, for new construction, that will obviously increase the price. So what will that do to resale homes?
Well, we talked about, to resale homes. Well, I mean,
make it more attractive.
It'll probably make it more attractive. We've talked to Charles Clement when he was on the show from Clement Homes, and he's like, not only are they, is it going to increase supplies like the copper and the lumber and all that stuff in homes, permits are going up, things like that. So new homes construction might be in for a bit of a trek here in the next little bit,
unless our governments get together and say, okay, let's fix this. Let's fix this for a change. Let's take some of these levies and fees and bring them down and encourage builders to build.
Well, I hear some of them are double, Frank. Some of them have
that's
doubled.
That's my point. Get rid of that.
I hear a lot of talk about that, but nothing's being done.
I get it. But hopefully what's happening now with Donald Trump is opening our eyes. I mean, the one thing, you go to hockey games, we don't boo the American anthem, and that's okay. But what I notice is that we loudly cheer the Canadian anthem now, like very loudly cheer the Canadian anthem. It's brought us together. Well, if it's brought the people together, the government needs to open their eyes and say, we need to get together. Our Canadian people have been brought together. Maybe we need to get rid of these stupid interprovincial.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. The tariffs between provinces is absolutely ridiculous. But more importantly, if housing is important and we need to build more houses, can we get rid of some of these damn fees and let's give the builders an opportunity to hire people to build homes? Because when you're building homes, you are hiring a lot of people. You are creating employment. You are creating jobs not only not only the tradespeople, but now you've got lumber places. We're using lumber. We're using our stuff that we have here in Canada. We don't need it from the Americans. We're using our stuff. We are actually employing Canadian people is what we're doing.
But shame on the government for not removing the interprovincial tariffs already. We've
embarrassing.
We've been talking about
get
this.
premiers to agree, though.
But we've been talking about this since January. We're now having a tough economy because of these tariffs, and we have interprovincial tariffs. Why is it cheaper to go somewhere else in the world to get something when our neighbors in Canada have the exact same product, but it's more expensive because of these interprovincial tariffs? So those should have been removed right at the talk of tariffs. Those should have been removed. What Frank said about how Canadians are really banding together, it's beautiful. They really, really are. And the only thing I'll disagree with is I was at the Sens game a couple of weeks ago against San Jose, or a week ago against San Jose, and they booed the national anthem.
It's changed.
The American, which
last
I thought
few
was...
Games,
which
last few games has changed.
Which I thought was disgusting, because we don't have a problem with the American people, the American troops. We have a problem with one person. And I just think I'm glad to hear that they're not booing anymore the American anthem, so they shouldn't. But I do agree with you. It's too hard to build homes right now. It's supposed to have been easier the last 2-3 years. It was supposed to be easier. It is not easier. We've heard from a builder flat out from his mouth. It's not easier. Fees are going up.
It'd be cheaper to buy, though, right, if they get rid of the carbon tax?
Oh, if they get rid of because, like even what Frank said about the carbon tax affects our food prices, because who delivers our food? Big Mac trucks, diesel prices have skyrocketed. So, I think if one, that's going to help. But I'd like to see us start buying a little bit more Canadian to bring the prices down in new homes, to help new home builders, because what are we trying to do to spur the economy? Build more homes. Well, we're not building more homes because of all the red tape and the fees.
Yeah, that hasn't gone away. We still need housing.
We need housing. Two things that are broken right now is our housing and our medical. Like it's crazy right now what's going on with our medical. But anyways, let's go positive right now, Frank.
Yeah.
Birthdays.
I got a few since I've been gone for a little bit, but a lot of them are actually this week. So start off with my buddy Mike Waldo DePaulo from Rivera Homes celebrating his birthday tomorrow. So happy birthday. Alexia from my office. Tyler Ross from our office, one of our agents, celebrating birthday. Aiden Sutak celebrated his 70th. He's even older than you, Steve.
That's hard to believe.
I know, he's even older than you. But Aiden celebrated his 70th birthday yesterday. Happy birthday to Aiden. One of my best friend's daughters, Alessandra, who was born same day as my daughter. And my daughter, Katrina, celebrates her birthday today. So happy birthday. 34 years ago, I will tell you.
Yeah.
I was the happiest person on this world. Cloud 9. Your first baby is something you never forget. So,
and I wish you're happy.
And actually, the weather was very similar to this on that day. So
I have one thing. I don't have a birthday, but one of my best friends, Adam Cote, Angie Poirier, they got some beautiful news about their son Nash, who's been struggling the last 8, 10, 9 months with cancer. He is now cancer-free, which is absolutely amazing news.
Yeah,
he got the clean bill. Now, it's a long road ahead. They have scans all the time, but a fellow colleague in the mortgage industry of Frank's and one of my best friends got the best news ever this week. So congratulations to Angie, to Adam, and young Nash on this.
And we have declared March 11th as Nash Day moving forward. A bunch of us have declared it as Nash Day, so every year on March 11th, we will be doing something special for Nash.
That is awesome.
Yeah, awesome news.
Have a great week. Enjoy spring.
Yeah, and please support local Canadian businesses and charities.